Hey, good morning, everybody. We're glad to be back with you again. And today's topic is growing your coaching business through partnerships. And David, this is something that I don't know if it's advanced, but it's something that I don't know that a lot of people think about, especially early on, until maybe there's opportunities that kind of arise over time. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, people think like, "Well, get a good clients," and you think it's all just you. Like you have to go beat the bushes, or either like chase down people individually, or post like crazy on social media or whatever, and you don't think necessarily about this is one of your options. Like, do
Hmm.
you know people that already are connected to people
Hmm.
who are your good, who would be a good audience for you, that could be good customers? So
Yeah.
this is a way that has been used many times. We've done this ourselves in the past, and um, I've seen many people do this over and over. A lot of businesses are built doing
Right.
these types of strategies, and if you can get the right partner, you can build a very strong business. So,
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say too is, this is not just we're talking about specifically from a coaching standpoint today, but we can look at models that this has happened in more the brick and mortar or corporate space of larger companies because this happens all the time. I was actually thinking I had this thought. It was really weird the other day. I was driving, probably just because I was driving a long time over the weekend with my son from a soccer tournament weekend, and I started looking just around my car, right? And I started thinking about, okay, look at all the parts and pieces, the dials, the dashboard, the electronics, everything. And I'm like, you know what? Companies don't build necessarily every component in their car, right? They partner with other companies that provide certain systems or certain parts of that. So there are companies, and this what blows my mind, right? There are companies out there, manufacturing companies that literally make like little like O-rings or little dials or little that's all they really do. And they do that because they're partnering with the car companies who need those parts to create their cars. So this we actually live this every day. I don't know that we pay attention to it, but it's how businesses are often built, like you said, because the reality is we can't do everything well. We have expertise and skills in certain areas, but we're not going to be experts in everything, and that's okay. And when it comes to growing your business, finding like-minded, complementary partners is a strategic way to grow your coaching business. And finding people that have basically the same audience as you, but they do something different that you can offer their people, and maybe they can offer your people, and there's this back and forth, collaboration that can really be effective. But we also know that figuring out how to develop that and to maximize partnerships can be a challenge. Maybe it's something very new to you. Maybe you haven't thought about this much, and so we want to talk about this today so that you can at least have some seeds in your mind about maybe starting to look around of who could I come together with, who could I partner with, and maybe find some ways to collaborate. And we want to start with just how do you build these relationships? And I think a lot of it, David, comes from seeking out partners that are really aligned with your values, because this could be a real problem if you just find anybody, right?
and I'm glad you said that first, because this is, I was just watching another training yesterday, and it was even talking about this platform that did a lot of they brought in outside experts, just even in, this isn't even necessarily partners, but they
Hmm.
brought in outside experts to do training for their members in their membership group, and they had to bring on a quality control team because the videos that were being sent to them were basically nothing but sales pitches. Like
Oh,
they weren't sending them. They were being paid to create a training video to help their members learn how to do something, and the only thing that the person did was just try and sell them on all their stuff.
yeah,
And so they had to like, whoa, wait a minute, this
yeah,
is no, this is not what we paid you for. And so there are people out there like that who only care about selling their stuff.
right,
And so when you are, if you're a coach, if you're a coach, more than likely your goal is to help people, because
mhm,
most people don't go into the coaching business solely just for the money. You go into it because you want to make an impact in someone's life. You
right.
know that you can really help people, that you can make a difference in their lives, and you can make things better for them. And there's a great deal of satisfaction in that. Well, you don't then want to partner with somebody who only cares about getting in their wallet.
Right.
because when you bring that person in, all of a sudden, the thing is, when you bring a partner in, you're kind of vouching for them,
Yeah.
or they're vouching for you, so to speak. You're
Mhm.
kind of saying, "Hey, I know this person. This is a good person. You should listen to them."
Yeah.
Okay. And then if they turn out to not care about people, or they don't share your values, or all of a sudden they're saying things that your audience is going, well, David would never say that. That's not
Right.
consistent at all with what he's been saying along the way. That's all kind of a shady thing that this guy's suggesting to do. I don't know that I feel comfortable with that. And
Yeah.
it just all of a sudden it hurts you. Your audience starts to turn off, and then people don't even want to listen to you after that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that, you whatever I think a lot of this is defining those values too, right? You need to know what you want to make sure that for that quality control piece, right? Like what is it? And I'm very conscious when I think about partnerships even when I'm invited to speak to a company or to an association, and I'm trying to make sure that what they're doing is aligned with me, but also I want to make sure that I'm doing for them what is aligned for them, right? Because I feel that's the integrity thing for me, right? I want to make sure that we're on the same page. And when that happens, the collaboration, that synergy can really be great. And to your point, I actually just a few weeks ago I got to go speak at an annual conference for an industry, and I was able to promote my business towards the end, but I didn't make this hard sell thing because they had paid me to come speak and add value on a specific topic. And so I want to give people an opportunity to get some next steps, but that was such a small part of what I did because they paid me for the topic. So I focused on the topic, 95% of it, and then said at the end, hey, if you want to connect further, here's some free things I offer. Here's even some paid things I offer. Just check out my website. That was my sales pitch, right? It wasn't truly a sales pitch at all. It was just an invitation to further engagement if they wanted to do that. But I've seen people that, to your point, where it's totally just this sales pitch on somebody else's stage,
right,
and it's slimy, right? It
right.
that the likelihood of that person being invited back is about zero.
Well, and that's just it. Is because that they don't actually. What's quickly apparent is you don't care.
Hmm.
You don't care about this audience. You don't care about these people, and you're just here to try and get in their wallet. And
Hmm.
that's all you really are interested in. You're only in it for you. And that's where, yeah, you're like you say, you have to have that, finding that win-win relationship where people
Yeah.
are like, hey, I'm going to do something valuable for your audience. You're going to do, I'm going to potentially, maybe get a client or two here. This is, I'm going to do something for them. They're all going to be very grateful and happy that I taught them these things, that they
Right.
are now aware of these things and understand them better. And in the other side, I can walk away with something as well.
Yeah.
And that's where it works. But you have to make sure that you have that right balance in there, and that you have the right person who
Yeah.
has the right intent.
Yeah, I think about it. Dave Ramsey talks about this more from an employee side of things, but he talks about hiring slow and firing fast.
Hmm.
I think it's the same thing with partnerships, right? Like
Right.
you need to go into this with an intentionality to make sure you're right, that there is this win-win approach, that we're on the same page, that there is this values and alignment match. And then if you find out that it isn't, then deal with that quickly. Don't let that linger, because you, like you said earlier, your reputation is on the line,
Right.
your credibility. When I put somebody in touch with somebody else, I'm vouching for them.
Right.
And if I'm just doing it because somebody's going to give me a referral commission or some kind of affiliate fee for doing that, and I didn't vet them, well, guess what? I'm going to have to deal with the blowback of that from that person who's like, that person didn't do a good job, or they're a snake or whatever. And so you have to do this very cautiously, folks. But just kind of some quick ways to think about what you can look for in partners is, are there ways to cross promote what you do? Can you, if you're a coach and they offer maybe a specific service, can you kind of bundle that together with some of their offerings? So a company I'm familiar with and actually connected to, they started their business with, it was like a business planning company. They would go in and help people with business plans, but they wanted to add this leadership coaching component as part of their package with their clients to help them get. So it wasn't enough just to give them a business plan. They wanted to help them be successful right out of the gate. So that was the partnership was, hey, we do this with these clients, you do that with your clients. How about you bring what you offer to, and we'll bundle this together to help our clients be successful. That was a great, idea to help. It's truly a win-win because now they're adding more value to their existing clients that they're writing business plans for, but those clients are getting that ongoing support that they need to be successful, especially in those early stages. So I love that idea. I thought that was great. Like finding ways to just kind of attach something that somebody else does onto, kind of bolt it onto what you're already offering. So there's some cross promotion ideas that way. Sometimes it's, hey, David, you offer this and I offer this. So why don't we do a webinar, and I'll talk about, my topic, and we'll maybe and do the reverse, and we'll have a webinar where you talk about your topic to my audience. And so that's almost like truly a 50-50, collaboration in that regard. You can also do where there's joint ventures where, there's truly a partnership, where it's like you're saying, hey, you have these skills, I have these skills. Let's come together and kind of form our own, program together where we can bring that together. Which even can be in kind of a legal agreement as business partners. Then there's also what is very common nowadays, right? Is affiliate programs. This person, promotes your course, they promote your services somehow, and every time somebody signs up and enrolls or buys, then they get an affiliate commission from that because they're part of your marketing team now to an expanded audience that you didn't have access to before or didn't know about. And then there's also collaborations with influencers and, thought leaders who are out there who have an audience. And once again, people know, like, and trust them. And so you build that relationship. And we've seen this happen many times, in the last few years in particular, right? Where conferences or, certain stages are really offered to people who have complementary services. Because why would I create something that you've already created that's going really well, right? Why don't I invite you to my stage or to my event so that you can then share that? So, any other thoughts on that, David? I mean, I feel like it's kind of like the sky's the limit, but we just have to kind of think creatively.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was just thinking a lot of what has to happen here is intentionality before you start.
Mm,
'Cause you just listed out a number of different ways of doing this, and they're all good and all valid. But before you start this relationship, or again, I think you got to understand the relationship has to come first. You
yeah,
have to build a relationship with that individual before you even worry about the partnership.
yeah,
There has to be some level of relationship here and some level of trust already built. Otherwise, it's you're kind of running into the danger zone where
yeah,
you really don't know the person, and then all of a sudden they start speaking to your audience, and you go, "Whoops." This isn't a and so you got to have that level of comfort and level of
yeah,
trust beforehand. But then you got to be able to set your attention. So what is this going to be?
yeah,
Because here's what you got to understand. People who have a bigger audience already established and already have a big client base that's already established, they're getting pitched all the time
mm,
by other people. I want to come speak to your audience. I want to come speak to your audience. So you got to understand. So what is this? They're looking at you going, they're looking at it from their perspective going, what are you bringing to me?
yeah,
Why should I say yes to you as opposed to the 10 other people that have already asked me this same question in the last 3 months?
right,
Why do I want to let you come speak to my people?
yeah,
And so you have to have a good plan. You got to go with intent. You got to know, okay, is this you just want to get on their stage and be in stage, and that stage can be physical, it can be virtual,
right,
it can be an email that's sent out to their audience,
yep,
that they get paid an affiliate commission if someone joins your program. You got to know what kind of a relationship are you even going to have,
right,
or what are you looking for before you even start this conversation,
yeah,
because that has to be clear. Otherwise, you're going in, well, what are you looking for? And then you go, I don't know. And then he goes, well,
yeah.
then you're wasting my time. Just don't even bother me with this.
I see a lot of this in pitches that I get of, people wanting, because I have a podcast on leadership, right? Like I'll get some random emails occasionally like, hey, this person is a great fit for your podcast to be a guest on. I'm like, I don't even know who this person is.
Right.
They have somebody that's kind of just pitching them to 1,000 podcasters. And I'm like, you don't know anything about my audience. You don't know anything about anything. And you just think they're just looking for a stage, a platform. And the best, I've been interviewed on different podcasts. I've had, guests on different things I've done, but it's all, like you said, it's come out of relationships and trust that I'm like, I'll have a conversation with people and I'm like, hey, you'd be great to speak to my audience on that topic. Would you come and be one of my guests sometime? We've had guests on this show a couple times already. We're trying to do that even more in the future. We want to bring in people that we truly have built good relationships with over time, who are doing great things that are very aligned with what we do, through our Design Launch Grow program, through this podcast, specifically. But that's coming out of a vetted, intentional process. And our intention is we want to introduce people to other good people and that are experts that can help them in specific areas. And so it has to go both ways, right? And I think that's part of it is, when we think about how do you execute that win-win relationship and that arrangement, first of all, you have to have clear communication. It needs to be very noted up front. What is the goal here, right? What is it that we're both trying to accomplish, and how are we going to do this? And I think, in most things, honestly, in life, communication breakdown is the cause of a lot of problems, whether it's in your home, with your spouse or with your kids or friends and family, or in business. And so the more you can be clear on the front end of what's the managing expectations, and then when you come into these partnership or agreements, I think it's just so much you can do the work on the front end to prevent a lot of problems on the back end, is kind of how I say it.
Well, and I'm actually smiling over here as you're talking, because right before we got on this morning, I was reading an email sent to me by a person I don't know, saying that they have someone that would like to be on our podcast, and they're really good at short-term property rentals.
Man, we talk about that a lot on here.
I know, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't do any work here. And this is what I was talking about earlier about even at this level, just being a podcast guest. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
You're not even doing any homework at all. This is clearly nothing, but you're just spamming. You got a list of people who do podcasts and you're just spamming them.
Right.
Hoping to get lucky, hitting a couple here or there to become a guest on it. And I look at this and go, you're not. And so that email just got immediately deleted. And I'm like, forget this. Why would I ever consider that? Because A, you clearly don't know what we're about.
Right.
And B, you're not a fit. You're like, this is not at all what we talk about and with the things that we address. And so this is about, if you want a relationship, you want to have a partnership, you have to have a relationship.
Yeah.
And that means doing some homework ahead of time and actually getting to know the person, actually spending time. There's that old saying, you want to, even if you're like, well, what if they're online and I don't have anything? Then when they post something on their social media, you go and comment on it.
Mm-hmm.
You be positive and you put positive interaction and engagement. You say, this is a great episode. So love what you guys are doing, or something. And you say, oh, this is great content. I really liked this point that you made. And you start being seen that way. You can start to be seen by people that you aren't, physically near.
Yeah.
On social media, by doing that, by posting comments, by being always present in turn, not ridiculously so, but being constantly there until, and then, talk about their products and maybe even do a post on yours social media saying, oh, I just bought the such and such product from this person and it's really helping me and it's great, and tag them in it. And they're going, oh, wow, great. Then we have a happy customer over here. So now they see you. And now they see you in a positive light. This is not just spamming them. Hey, can I get on your stage and sell my crap?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And it's funny because I do a monthly interview with different leadership experts on different topics for a program I offer. And I had an engagement. This was back several months ago now, where there was a fellow that I had been connected to on LinkedIn for a long time. And I knew his name and I knew of him. I didn't know a lot about him, but the more I saw his stuff, I thought, he might be really good to bring on as a guest sometime. And so, but what we did was I didn't just say, here's my link to join me and do this interview for my people. It was, we set up a time we had about an hour long Zoom call where we just chatted about what he's doing, and he gave me some background, and we made sure that there was a good fit. And I've learned to do that with each person, even if I know them pretty well. I always make sure to set up a pre-call just to make sure we're on the same page, to give them a vision of what I want to accomplish when they come on as my guest. And by doing that, everybody's, happy. I mean, and it ends up being great because, once again, clear communication. We have alignment of our goals and expectations of that engagement, whether that be, you mentioned before, like if you're bringing somebody in to be a trainer into your program, or whether it's a guest on a podcast or a guest at an event to speak. I mean, it, there's so many things that can go wrong. I tell people, when you hand somebody a microphone, you've lost control already, right? And if you go live, you have surrendered control unless you hit the the button to stop, and then that's that's embarrassing, or that it's not a good look either. So you have to make sure you're vetting people well and being clear on the front end of what you're expecting from them in that, because when you do, right, when it is clear, then it can be great. And I would also say it doesn't always last forever. Some things are seasonal, right? Like, hey, let's do this campaign together for the next 3 months,
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Or hey, let's do this one. And you mentioned like an email promotion. Let's do one email promotion, and if that goes great, then maybe you think about doing future ones. But I think a lot of times, I always laugh when people say it's the first annual blank, and I'm like, is it going to be good enough to have a second annual one? Like, how about we just have the first thing and call it that?
Right.
And if it goes well, then we can say the second annual thing, right? Like, but when you jump, if you start with thinking this is going to be something that you're doing 50 years from now, that doesn't always happen. So with partnerships, it's kind of the same thing. Test those waters, maybe, kind of ease into it. Think about ways to test and see if it works and see if it's good for everybody. And because to me, that lowers that resistance. If somebody came to me and wanted to do something like this, I'd be willing to try something, but I'm not going to go like all in on the first thing necessarily, unless I've known them for a long time and have experienced their thing. So,
but even that, I mean, we had Doug Fitzgerald on here, a few episodes ago, and interviewed him. And in the past, he's actually had me on his radio show. And even then, Doug and I know each other pretty well at this point in time. Where we become friends, and we're pretty comfortable with each other. So there's no real concern by either one of us that one of us is going to come on the show and say go completely off the rails. That comfort level is all there. But even then, when I went to be on his radio show, it was an hour radio show. We had an hour pre-call where we mapped out what we were going to say before I ever did the radio show. And so there was just this whole, even then at that level of that level of trust, there was this whole level of we're going to prepare. And so we know this is how the radio show flows. And some of that was just the flow of the show.
Right.
They had commercial breaks, obviously. They had different, this segment is this many minutes long,
right.
And we got to make sure you can fit it all in that time frame. So it's a good idea no matter what.
Yeah. And then there's also, and this is kind of connected to this, right, with the goals and expectations, but what are the success metrics, right? What is the win? Like when we're done with this, what would we say this is successful here? How would we say this is successful? Right. I think you use the terminology, the win fail line, about this, right? I mean, you can do this in a variety of ways, but what is that win fail line? What makes something? I was actually talking to a friend yesterday about this. I'm like, at the end of this thing, what does success look like so that we can be clear with the person we're engaging with? That's really important. And once again, that's part of that upfront communication. And, sometimes you just don't know, you can't guarantee there's going to be X number of sales, for instance, right? In a sales promotion that you might do, you can't guarantee there's going to be X number of clients enrolled from a webinar, but you can say, well, success would be this. And, we obviously hope for that, but, it's the inputs versus the outputs. So I don't know if you want to speak on that a little bit, David, about how to maybe define those, how to measure it. Like, was this a successful thing or not?
Right. Well, I mean, expectations are huge, because if I go into it and I'm expecting to make, $20,000 from this promotion, and you're going into it and expecting to make $100,000 from this promotion, we're pretty far apart in what we think is
Right.
going to happen here. And I always use this, in terms of, excuse me, in terms of helping people who work for you know
Yeah.
if they've done a good job. And
Yeah.
that's, you were talking about the win fail line. Like, how do we know if you did a good job?
Right.
Okay, if this was successful, this is what it's going to look like. If it was unsuccessful, that's what it's going to look like. So like there's this line that
Mhm.
if we've crossed this line, it was successful. And again, it's very important when you're doing a promotion like this that you have some look, if you have leads and you send them to us and we are able to get them on and have them listen to our webinar or have them go through our training or whatever it is, typically about this percentage of them will convert into
Mhm.
customers. So when you can even set those types of metrics, then the person on the other side goes, so if I can send you this many leads and get this many people to sign up, I should come close to getting this amount of sales. Okay,
Mhm.
great. And then because they're calculating affiliate commissions, like
Sure.
if they're sending you people to your program, they're like, okay, then they know, is this worth my time or not?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you're not paying if your program isn't that expensive and you're not paying out a big affiliate commission, they're going to look at this and go, well, I sent you a whole bunch of people and I got paid squat for all my time
Yeah.
doing this wasn't worth it. There has to be an expectation. It has to be a clear understanding of, okay, these are what's going to be expected in terms of work and
Yep.
things that you'd like to do. These are the things that I think are going to come as an outcome. So everybody is kind of on that same page.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, we don't know exactly how it's going to go because obviously no one does. You don't know until you
Right.
actually do it. But you have a general understanding of the targets around here.
Yeah.
And we'll probably hit somewhere in this range. And as long as we do, everything's good. And that's usually how things go. And when you do that well, then
Mhm.
at the end, there's no hurt feelings and there's still a relationship at the end of this promotion.
Right, and I think that's huge what you just said because that's probably the thing, and maybe it's because of kinda how I'm wired, I'm a connector, I'm very relational. I would rather do nothing with somebody than damage the relationship,
Right.
right? Like, if it's going to cost the relationship, then it's not worth it to me. So, that's part of those expectations as well is, I want to make sure that I'm protecting that as much as anything, and I know that that's not what everybody thinks about, especially in business. I think that those that don't think about that end up kind of hurting themselves long term in a variety of ways for a variety of reasons. But the bottom line for me is, if I'm going to face this person regularly, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can
Mhm.
to make it a positive experience, and vice versa. So, a part of this arrangement, right, is truly maximizing each other's email lists, social media followers, and maybe there's some good content marketing that somebody's already doing. Maybe somebody does a really good job of, doing weekly blogs or podcasts, or and you even mentioned radio shows. Like there are so many different media outlets from a content marketing side of things that you can do, videos, whatever, that could be a YouTube channel. Let me interview you and introduce you and your program, your product, to my audience on YouTube, whatever that may be. Just capitalizing on that. It's really like, hey, you've got a pool of people that you gather that are your followers. I've got a product or service that is valuable to them, so let's come together, or vice versa. So, but here are the things, folks. There are some challenges to all this, right, that we want you to be aware of, because we've kind of touched on some of these already. But if there are misaligned expectations, that could be very damaging to this partnership, idea or process. And David, I've seen this not even in business realm, but in other realms where I'll tell you this story. So back years ago, when I was a youth pastor, we would go on mission trips in the summertime, and we'd work with different organizations and groups that are doing work. And we went to this one on an Indian reservation out in South Dakota, and they were great people doing great work. And we got out there, and I went out there and did a pre-trip, in February before a summer trip. And they told me, they're like, Chris, you're the first person that we've ever had who's come out months in advance to actually see what we're doing and ask how you can help. Because they said what often happens is people come out here with their own agenda to do their own projects that they want to accomplish, take some pictures, and go home and tell everybody how great it was. That wasn't even a business thing, right? But here was the thing. They said we almost quit doing groups like this because of that experience.
You're just using us.
Right. And so thankfully, right, the process that I was going through with them and through advice of an agency that I was working through, it really gave them new hope that things can be better and there can be, so they didn't quit, having groups come out. But I think of it the same way in business, right? Like if you don't do the work up front and there's not clear expectations and those things are misaligned, then you're going to have conflict. You're going to have problems. Things are going to fail. And so once again, that was a mission trip ministry thing that I was doing years ago versus a business transaction and partnership, but it was still a partnership. And so how you go about it matters, and having those expectations clear on the front end matter. And that ties into that, communication breakdown is another thing to be aware of. Making sure that you're good at communicating. This is something I hear a lot of times too, David, is people are astonished when they actually get good, consistent, timely communication from people. And I'm like, that can build up or tear down your credibility so fast. If you're really good at communicating with your partners, they're going to think highly of you, that you're diligent. If you ghost people and you're just kind of, lazy about it, or, you let your overwhelm of your inbox, kind of prevent you from communicating well, people lose trust. Lack of communication leads to lack of trust in reality.
I agree 100%. I mean, and they're just, as you're talking, I'm just thinking about all the examples of things even from the past few years. And like, even, even something as simple as, my wife and I had to trade in our old car to get a different car here a few months ago. And during that time, we had a stretch because during these days, like if you want to get a new car, there are no cars on the lot.
Right, you have to order them.
You more or less have to order the car, and then they tell you when it actually is coming in. And the communication was just poor, and we were confused. And all of a sudden, we thought they were changing the deal on us, and
Yeah.
and you're just like, at the end, they
Yeah,
were
the lack of communication, you kind of create your own stories, right?
right. Well, and it was, and they were, and they weren't. They weren't being dishonest, but because the communication was poor,
Yeah.
we were starting to question whether or not they're trying to pull a fast one.
Right.
And all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, what?
Right.
This is not what we agreed to. What
Yeah.
are you doing? And it wasn't what was happening. It was just poor communication.
Right.
Like they weren't doing anything shady. There wasn't anything wrong
Yep.
happening. It was just somebody doesn't communicate very well, and the way that they said certain things was confusing.
Yeah.
And so think about that. These are long-term relationships you want to have with these people. You want to be able to do things with them. You want to be able to mutually create beneficial events for each other.
Yeah.
And if all of a sudden they're looking at you going, well, I don't know if I can trust you, because that felt like, and it's not even that you're untrustworthy, but you were so poor in communicating what was happening
Mhm.
that they started to question your integrity because
Right.
you're not clear. And now all of a sudden their mind starts going, wait a minute, what are they actually doing? Are they going to
Yeah.
pull something here that, I don't need or want? And again, that communication is huge. If you can
Yeah.
communicate clearly and plainly and simply so that people know, okay, this is what we're going to do,
Right.
then it brings down the temperature in the room. Everybody's calm. Everybody knows what to expect. These conflicts start to go away, and they trust you, and everything becomes better.
And let's be real, when money's involved, tensions arise,
Correct.
right? Like, because if you're looking at a joint venture promotion, an affiliate promotion, and you're not being transparent about how many sales came in, how did the thing go?
Well, that's a big one. If you do that and they're getting an affiliate commission, and all of a sudden they think, well, we should have had at least 20 sales come in, and you're saying we had 10, and they're
Right.
going, you're just, oh, you're not telling me about the other 10,
Right.
but so you don't have to pay me on them.
Right.
And then it's in the toilet. It's over.
Yeah. And that can go down fast. The other thing is conflict of interest. Like I said, if there's misalignment of values, that's a conflict of interest. But if there's also, credibility issues, that you come across, you have to be aware of that. You mentioned cars, right? Like, so there's a there's a car dealer in our community that is overcoming, and he has a long way to go probably, I'll say a shady past that he may not have directly been involved in, but he was connected to. And
Mm,
so there's a lot of people who aren't real sure if they should do business with him in our city area. That there, some people feel like it's a conflict of interest, of even doing business with him because of what he's done, what he was a part of or accused of with somebody else that truly did do something wrong years and years ago. Your reputation precedes you, right? Like, so if your credibility is shot, then you can't expect people to want to hook their wagon to you.
right.
And if somebody else, if you think, well, they've got a big audience, but they're kind of shady, don't hook your wagon to them because now your reputation gets attached to theirs. So you have to be very careful of, uh, people sniff out this stuff now, right? They see through, intentions and motives a lot of times. Like if they feel like you're just trying to get fast cash by using and abusing them, you
Mhm.
know, an audience can disintegrate quickly, right? We've seen that
Right.
happen.
Correct.
Um, and partnerships are a part of that. Like if you want to, we've said this. I mean, David, you and I've had these conversations with people like because of an association with certain people, we are very cautious or we just choose not to do partnerships with certain people.
Right. Well, it is, and that relationship can even change quickly. Like
Mhm.
we've all been part of things with certain people, and then all of a sudden, you don't know what even shifted or what happened with them, and all of a sudden they just stopped caring and only wanted to make sales. And yeah,
Yeah,
it,
well, I mean, I think some people, right? I mean, it's once again money. Money can, money being a driver for people can take people down some roads that nobody expected, and you have to be very careful that, and even people that maybe that I would have maybe promoted or partnered with in the past, I look at them today, years later, and go, nope, I wouldn't do that. Years ago I was aligned with them, but now today I'm not. So
right.
it's not just this one thing and done thing. It's really like in real time, what is right in front of you. And lastly, I mean, this kind of can go without being said almost, but beware of dishonesty, right? Like we talked about, like if you're doing a promotion and somebody tells you that you made 10 sales when you really made 20, that's they're lying to you, right? They're lying to you for their own personal gain. And it's that whole thing of, if you can fool me once, but don't let people fool you twice. And make sure you're dealing with people with integrity. Make sure you're dealing with people that you can trust. And if you find out that you can't, then move on and don't. We've seen people, David, with partnerships or affiliate relationships that were kind of stuck together based on an agreement for a while, but then they're like, when that time frame came up, it's like I'm not working with that person anymore. Like we may have agreed to this, but as soon as that date hits, I'm out, because I don't trust that person. They're dishonest. They're not the kind of person I want to partner with. So folks, that business can be messy.
Right.
It can also be great. And I think it's just a matter of, once again, we kind of the underlying or foundational thing that we started with was relationship. And if you build trusting relationships, you can really do some great partnerships. But start there. Don't look at what can I get from them
Mhm.
as the first thing. Think about, is this somebody I would want to partner with in the first place?
Right.
And then, okay, if that's the case, now how can we benefit each other's audiences? How can we benefit each other's businesses mutually? And what is that win-win? So, any final thoughts, David, as we wrap up today?
I just want to reiterate a little bit what you were just saying in that this, sometimes you look at partnerships of, oh, it's a way I can make money. It is, but all of this is tied to that relationship. It is all tied to, is this the person that you want to be tied to? And even though this may not be a business partnership, I remember once when I was in college. So this was a salient point if I'm still remembering it from college days, because that was not recent. But I remember a professor standing up in front of us and saying, you need to approach getting a business partner the same way that you approach getting a wife.
Mm,
And it was mainly obviously a room of guys, but
right,
he was just looking at us going, because if you choose the wrong one, it can hurt bad
right.
and it can wreck your life.
Yep.
And even when we're just doing affiliate or doing partnerships that aren't like business partnerships, where
Mhm.
we're actually literally business partners, you got to be careful because it can go south. And that's why the very first thing that, we want to emphasize is that you got to build a relationship first and foremost. You got to get to know that individual. And that can just start by, if you don't know them already, just start following them.
Yeah.
Start following them online, read their stuff, go listen to their videos, read what they're putting out there, get to know them. If they wrote a book, read their book, find out who these people really are so that you can get a sense for their heart, for their integrity, for what they're about, and then make the decision as to whether or not this is something you want to, pursue and do more with, because that is where all of this is. That we talked about the win-fail line. That is the win-fail line for this. Is if you're partnered with the right person, who's a good person, has honesty and integrity and will do what they say they're going to do, partnerships can be amazing.
Sure.
They can radically transform your business to do incredible things for you. But if you don't do your homework and you just want to try and do something fast to make some money, it can destroy you as well.
And be careful, folks, as your audience builds, right? And you, like David said, we get these, whether it's email, you get a lot of emails. I tend to get a lot of like LinkedIn messages, and so, but they're kind of the same.
They've given up on me on LinkedIn because I never respond.
But it's still these pitches, right? Like it's very much a, what's in it for me on their part. They're trying to jump the relationship, right? They're trying to skip that part. And, if I've been following somebody and I like what they've, been saying, and there's truly been a mutual, alignment that you can tell, that's a different story. But most of the time when people are spamming to get onto your platform, they're not even interested in the relationship. They're just interested in the fast results that they think they're going to get. So you have to, as a leader, as you grow your client base, your audience, you need to protect that audience from the snakes out there, because there's plenty of them. And, I can't imagine what the people that have been around for a long time, the Tony Robbins, the John Maxwell's, the Darren Hardy, all these people that have these massive audiences they've been building for decades now. I can't imagine the pitches they get, because they got literally millions in many cases of followers.
And those pitches.
Yeah, it's got to be, a full-time job to just, for somebody to keep filtering all that crap out. So, just think about that, folks. You are a protector of your audience, and whether it's you, and you need to think about what can you truly give of value to an audience that maybe you're being invited into, but also if you're thinking about partnering and bringing somebody to your audience, make sure that this is really good fit, because it can make or break your business. It can make or break your credibility. And, it's that whole thing of, very few people give good reviews, but a lot of people give bad reviews, online especially. So we just want to bring this to you. This is a great option as a coach to partner with aligned people, but just beware. There are some things, pitfalls that you just have to be careful of so that you can do it well. Because to David's point, when that relationship is there and it's a good fit, it can be great, but it can, you have to be careful about that. So think about ways, as we wrap up today, just think about ways that you can partner with others. Think about the people that you admire and that you value and that you think that, they're doing great things that maybe you could add value to their audience, and vice versa. And then start talking with them, is there a way to come together and do some joint things that we could, promote different things that we each offer, because we're mutually beneficial to the same audience, essentially. So if we can help you with any of that, check out designlaunchgrow.com. We'd love for you to check out our training and coaching program, where we have a variety of training videos to help you walk through growing your business, building it to that next level, whatever that starting point is for you. We also have weekly coaching calls to help you navigate through the challenges that you might be dealing with on a real-time basis. And it's a great community of people that just truly want to help each other grow and support and encourage each other. So if we can be of service to you in that, check out designlaunchgrow.com, and we would love to have you join the program. So take care, and we'll see you soon.